Well, if you're looking for Sony's picture, The Interview, you're in the wrong place. This is not that film. That would be Sony's new picture about North Korea's version of South Park's Cartman, Kim Jong-un, the rather petulant leader of North Korea.
Oh, that one.
We are, however, on our way over to a guy's house to interview him who might be just as weird as Kim Jong-un and even possibly a little more egotistical than Kim Jong-un. But he builds model trains and is therefore an adequate subject for a Toyman video. The Denver and Rio Grande Western has always been a very popular railroad with modelers. It was built as a 3-foot gauge railroad and continued as a narrow gauge railroad with steam engines into the 1960s. They also had some great passenger equipment. Now, if you've seen the chapter on Knott's Berry Farm, you've seen a lot of this equipment because a lot of this narrow gauge equipment ended up at Knott's Berry Farm. So we're here with Dale Angell, and he's built these really interesting passenger cars here in 1/20th scale. They're really large, from the Denver and Rio Grande, and we're going to let him explain what they are and how he built them. Yes, these are, well, I'd refrain from using the word brilliant. You can use the word brilliant, but I would probably refrain from that. But I built these cars, there's 2 of them here so far, and my goal is to build 6 of the cars that were running on the Denver and Rio Grande Western, on the San Juan extension in the 1960s and the 50s, and these are a little bit earlier. These are still the kerosene cars. Now, I bought these kits. They were made by Don Winters, and they were not brilliant. They were not good. So I modified the Don Winters car quite a bit for the RPO, the Railroad Post Office. And I put so much work into modifying it that I finally thought, you know, I could have just built it from scratch and it would have been a lot easier. So for the baggage car, I decided, nuts to the kit, I'm just going to build it from scratch. So that's what I did. I built this guy entirely from scratch, using some of the Don Winters castings and throwing a good deal of it away. Now the car itself, they're really cool cars. Of course, I think I did above average would be a little understated job of building it. Again, I would refrain from using the word brilliant, but you can. And it came together quite nicely, I think. I started by building the frame of the car, which is a good place to start. So it's all wood frame, and then that's is actually decked on both sides of the car, as was the way the Rio Grande built these. So that not only is the floor decked, but the underside is decked to keep, you know, weeds and dirt and rattlesnakes and whatever from getting up into the framework of the car. And so that's decked. And then the truss rods go up through that decking. So I built the frame, and then I cut the holes in there that the truss rods go up through. And then I put the truss rods through. The truss rods are Hartford product truss rods. I didn't build those. And then rigged that whole thing in there and built the queen posts and all of that sort of thing. And then I was able to deck the top side once the truss rods were in there. Once the wood frame was done, then I also built the brake rigging. And the brake rigging is partially scratch build and partially the Don Winters castings and partially Hartford castings. But I built the whole brake rigging, and I had to scratch build the brake hanging mechanism and a lot of the brake rigging for that. The brake shoes themselves are Hartford brake shoes, and then some of the tanks and whatnot came with the Don Winters kits. The upper part of the car, the superstructure of the car, was built out of about 60 thousandths styrene plastic, and then everything else was built out of evergreen plastic. It's evergreen scribed siding layered on top of that, so it's a double thickness but that was the only way I could get the strength that I needed for a car of this size. And then I built the shelving inside the car also out of evergreen plastic. The baggage that's in the shelves is mostly stuff that I sculpted out of putty. I like to use this putty. I don't know if you saw the ads for Billy Mays' Mighty Putty, as seen on television. It's very similar to that, but I sculpted the individual suitcases and bags and so on out of that stuff. And then I made molds, and then that way I could reproduce those and make a lot of bags. So I made a lot of baggage to go inside there. Some of what's in there I bought from a company called Cargo to Go, and you can just buy that stuff and stick it in there. So the Coke bottles and the pumpkins came from Cargo to Go. Everything else is scratch built. The lights, I've got a lighting system in there based on the original lighting system for the car. And the lights were dollhouse lights that I found, and then I had to scratch build some little containers that look exactly like what was on the real cars that these lights would set down in, the kerosene lights would set down in. So the coal stove here is a Hartford Products coal stove, and then I had to scratch build the coal bin and the stack and those kinds of things to work with that. And then the end sills and all of that is all scratch built as well. The figure I sculpted from scratch out of that same putty stuff, and then I pulled a mold so that I could make multiples of this. This is Jeb, and Jeb is sitting here with his suitcase. Every car I build, I like to sculpt at least one figure to put in the car, and then if I make a mold and cast that figure, then I can have multiples of that figure, and I'm not just sticking my original in the car. The car I chose to model is Rio Grande number 127, and only because that's the car they blew up in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and I just thought that was kind of fun that they blew that up. And I think there might have been a little history in that because 127 had a safe in it, and I don't know that very many of these baggage cars actually had safes in them. 127 did. So it made a certain amount of sense that Butch and Sundance would have tried to dynamite the safe because there was a safe. The roof structure is partially the winter's kit, mostly scratch built, as I wasn't that happy with, again, the winter's kit. Not really up to my standards, if you will, and I wanted something a little nicer, and good enough I feel is just never really good enough. You know, I wanted to do something way beyond good enough, so I built my own roof there, and there it is. A great field sketch exists of number 127, and that made developing a plan much simpler. You can see here the position of the safe and a gun rack, the stove, the sink, etc. Now, the brake rigging on this car is pretty much standard issue for a Rio Grande car, so that's very simple to figure out. And who knows what kind of baggage you would have found in a car like this, because they also hauled freight, not just the bags of the passengers. Now, this particular car is not the only one being built by Dale Angell, and in fact he built the RPO before building that, but he's torn back into it to do a little more work on it. All of these cars are going to feature full interiors with human figures. This particular car has a somewhat different brake rigging on it. Now here's sculpting the figure that's going to go in the RPO. This is Eric, the mail sorter, and here is the mail sorting area. The car is divided into two halves, a mail sorting half and a freight half where more baggage and freight could be carried. The remaining cars are going to be 4 chair cars, a combine, and a business car, for a total of 8 cars. A rather massive project. A little weird there, a little weird. Yeah, you never know about these things. Well, I don't know how that guy lives with himself, but apparently that's the only person he can live with is himself, because He's a little odd. He's a little different. And he's not at all concerned about rattlesnakes, except the ones that get up under the floorboards.
Which I thought I saw.
Which is a possibility.
Yeah.
Well, if you haven't been over to the channel, do go to the channel and subscribe. That's Toyman Television on YouTube. Truck's just sliding out of control, just coming around the corner, just sliding out of control. It isn't even icy, really. Just sliding out of...
It's Utah.
Praise Jesus that he didn't hit us. I should get my plastic pope going here on the dashboard. Good heavens. Hey, where was I? You should go to the channel and you should subscribe. And you should go to the website, toymantelevision.com, because that's a good deal of fun. We're not sure how you found this great video featuring the American version of Kim Jong-un and a pickup truck sliding completely out of control and almost hitting us. Terrorists. Good grief. And it isn't just Utah. The same things happen in Florida.
Oh, I know they do.
Oh, geez.
Especially around the villages, you gotta watch out.
Well, keep an eye out for the next movie, which will be going up on Sunday morning. And we will see you here again in 1 week with that. See you later. Bye.
Bye.